So next question for you. Could you give your top two sleep and energy recommendations that you typically make or are most effective from what you've seen?
Great question. And I think this is where I think people will be disappointed and are sometimes a little disappointed with me on some level is that they kind of think, oh, Nick is like the sleep hack person. So, like, folks, like, there's less than 5 sleep hacks maybe that I've ever discovered in now 6 to 8 years of studying this stuff. So, I'd say, strangely, if you were to try to do this all on your own, number one, in terms of how much net positive you get from it, is terribly boring, which is training yourself to fall asleep with around 30 to 45 minutes of the same time and waking up or between 30 to 45 minutes of the same time. And then working on whatever you feel like you need to do to get there until you get there. But once you're there, the brain loves that. The brain is obsessed with sameness. There's another mini book I'll probably release this year called I Need to Change My Life, which is an inside look at what I call the habit lock that I used to help me when I was getting nowhere. I was like, I need to understand change. But one of the things I teach people early on is your brain, yes. Neuroscientists a couple decades came out and said, guess what, everyone? Your brain is plastic. And we were like, no, it's not. Plastic is like this microphone. It's like, no, it's plasticity, which if you don't know what that means it's malleable. I don't know why science continues to do this. Here's one thing that doesn't change. Terminology that is not really transparent. And it's like, that's not what we're talking about, guys. It's malleable. And so a lot of us thought, then the fMRI machines were studying all these things on like meditators and all this stuff. And they were like, whoa, did brain structures change? And it's like, yeah, which makes it feel like I can change and become anything. And it's like, I've got bad news for you. Yes, you can. But your brain doesn't want any part of it.
It doesn't want to.
Yeah. So like one of folks are interested in just kind of like feeling me out and not like, officially having to deal with me as your client, as your coach, because I'm not for everybody. Is I do a free newsletter on LinkedIn every 2 weeks. And this year we're going to do something very different with it. And I now understand it in a different way than I did before. And it's really like a free every 2 week program around energy and sleep. And I did an edition in last year's 12 editions that out of the top 3 that I actually create videos for new people who join now. You'll get like what were the highlights of the prior year. One of them that shocked me was like the most boring one with like these visuals of a castle. The title was nothing that we would be told in social media. You should title something to get people interested, which was like how to get past the castle guards was the thing. And what I basically did was I just taught the audience what one of the components of the habit lock is, which was if you're dealing with this brain that doesn't want to change, whatever you do that you're sort of intending to do the change with, make sure it's small.
Yeah.
And then that became the metaphor, which is you need it small enough, and I got this picture of a little mouse, so I'm like tiny, to sneak past the guards and into the castle and develop from within and take over from within. And then, yes, it is very plastic and it can change. It's very cool. And people really liked it, which was like, this is a boring topic. Like, that's really it. Like, keep it that small and sneak it in there. And I tell people, I'm like, I have to tell them when they're like, I'm like, I don't want you to think that you're doing something, that we've made the bar so low.
Yeah.
This is an assumption that's incorrect. Like, we've lowered the bar for me so low. Doesn't this seem pathetic? And I'm like, actually, guess how many minutes at Google, it's a private little group, like 9 trainers, you apply inside Google to get their mindfulness-based meditation training. So I think the book is called Search Inside Yourself. It's like the Google version of meditation mindfulness. Well, in this book on sustainable peak performance, they interview them. Guess how long they start new inductees in the first 2 weeks? How much time they would do the mindfulness meditation practice?
And this is specifically built to do that?
Mhm.
This program?
Mhm.
I'm assuming like a few hours a day.
1 minute.
1 minute. Wow.
1 minute. And they were like, we've even had feedback after 2 weeks of 1 minute where people are like, I'm already starting to sleep better. I'm starting to do this here at Google a little differently. So I'm always like, I usually start people with like 5 to 15. But I'm like, if all the smart people are at Google and they realized if we're going to train our people internally to use this stuff, we start with 1 minute.
As simple as it can be.
Yeah. And then I think the second tip, that and that's something I'm doing this year, after I deal with my loss of my home, there was a fire in my home. I don't have a home anymore. Is to do a training on mindfulness meditation. I didn't understand quite the degree of net positive outcomes that you can get. And it's around 6 to 8, I believe, that are sleep related. And so I'll give you one reason why it's almost complicit with every client that I have, because it's the only thing that I've been able to find that can improve deep sleep. So for folks who don't know, like slow wave deep sleep in the first half of your sleep is about like restoring your body. The second half is what people call REM sleep. And this is where your brain is getting the restorative processes that it needs. Working out, walking, any of those type of activities, they will help with the deep sleep, the first part.
Yeah.
But none of them will get at the REM part. Mindfulness meditation, once you develop it into a routine after about 4 weeks and it becomes part of your life, it will go after both REM and deep sleep. So it's like, it's free, it costs nothing, you can do it anywhere, and this is what you can expect. And I'll give you one other example of what to expect from it that actually fits into your product design. So the Be Asleep mask has this sort of evolving sense of like, we've now mapped your sleep and here are the results. And probably it needs a little less of this amount in this stage and a little more of this in that stage, and right? So mindfulness, I don't understand why this happens. Again, that's why I like doing sleep coaching and energy training. Is like, I don't need to know why. It's just question is, does it work or not?
Yeah.
Is what the sleep scientists will call, again, another term where I'm like, why did you name it this? Sleep architecture. So for folks who are like, what is sleep architecture? You should be asking that question. Sleep architecture is how much time and quality is spent in the different phases of sleep during the night. Well, if you develop a mindfulness meditation practice after 4 weeks plus or whatever, really not unlike some of the work that you're doing with the neurotechnology of the mask, your brain will do it. It will assess, oh, actually, Michael needs like 6 more minutes of REM, 3 minutes less of light, and it will then start to shift you to have it. And you'll ask, well, what's its target? Its target is so that you're more refreshed when you wake up and you have more springy energy. So one of the 6 to 8 pluses of learning mindfulness meditation is that almost like a program you inserted in your brain, it's going to automatically figure out and then start to make the adjustments to you. I mean, it's like miraculous.
Yeah, that's amazing.
It's incredible. It's totally mind-blowing. So it's funny because it's, again, I as a teenager grew up being trained in that stuff. Never did I think decades and decades later
Come back.
that I'd be going, actually the first public training that you can pay and come to is specifically about learning, understanding, and learning the technique and then executing it. I would have been like, no way. And it's like, no, that is the most critically important thing that you can offer that can help with these issues of energy and sleep. And these are the platforms you could do it on. I was like, okay, so that's it. So the two are really boring. One is falling asleep and waking up around the same time. And 2 is getting some kind of mindfulness meditation practice into your life. Yeah. And last year when we talked, I had mindfulness meditation in my curriculum around week 4 or 5. Those days are over.
Yeah.
My job is to sell the person very early in conversation of why this is going to be part of your daily, plan. Yeah. Yeah.
Actually, speak.